What is up, Fit Pro CEO family? We got a special guest here. You saw the comments in the event we did. We're going to be talking about the blood type that we have, and it's called Warrior. We have our special guest, Jeramiah Solven here. I'm going to give a little bit of a background and a little bit of a brag at the same time for Jeremiah. We met recently and we've had a couple conversations. This dude's just an amazing person, and that's why I wanted to bring him in. And I'm happy that he agreed to do this chat here and walk us through his mental toughness and how we can relate that back to our fitness businesses and all the bottlenecks that we may face. So maybe through this conversation, we can take some notes, get a pen and a paper, and we can have a breakthrough together as a collective here, because that's what it's about. It's not soaking and just indulging the information. It's also taking that to how can you execute it through your life. And that's why when we do interviews or group trainings or guest trainings like this, we want to really make an impact, not just get this like false motivation and feel good for the next hour or two, or even maybe heck the rest of the day. We want to actually translate this back into what can you do now? What can you do tomorrow? Is there something in this talk that you're going to learn that's going to actually elevate your game, your business, and also serve your clients? Because the way you show up for yourself is also going to be the way you show up for your clients. Subconsciously, you may be out there motivated when you see your clients, but then inside you may be like fearful, or you may have some downtime in your head. And the goal of this chat today is to see how we can change that. Okay. So Jeremiah, he's an amazing entrepreneur. He has a company called Conquer Academy. Teaches like leadership, performance coaching to make people the best in their field. Why and how this came about is like his background, and I'm gonna let him talk about it a little bit. But I mean, I'm just impressed by this dude being in the military. So, hey, thank you for serving. Number one, that's amazing. And he's a former Army Ranger Infantry Officer, background in special ops, served in the 75th Ranger Regiment as a Strike Force 1 platoon leader. That's one of the top positions in special operations. So I have a mile list of all the accomplishments Jeremiah has, but we would go on for an hour just on his background. So I want to give him an opportunity to say a little bit about himself, and then we can dive right into it.
Yeah. Well, appreciate you having me here, and for everybody that's listening and chiming in or tuning in. I thrive off of providing value and helping people. That's something that I learned while I was at Ranger School. Okay. Ranger School is a 62-day course. You don't sleep a whole lot. You don't really eat too much. There's no real planned sleeping and planned eating, and you're kind of just stuck in this grind. And the things that got me through that dark period of training was helping out the team around me. And so I learned that about myself there. And since then, I've made sure that I've made lifestyle changes and choices that help me help others, because that's where I selfishly feel the best. So I'm excited to bring value to the audience here. I really appreciate you guys bringing me in, and I'll do my best here to help the audience walk away with some practical tools. So you mentioned, kind of a little bit about my background. There's a lot of military things. There's a lot of fitness things that I've done in my life, but the reality of the situation is that, I grew up pretty much an underdog. I was born into a losing life, if you will. Grew up low income. My family was on food stamps for a while. We lived in a town of about 300 people, and my dad used to hunt to put food on the table. And so, really, I didn't have any big dreams as a kid. As I got older, I got into high school and I found wrestling. That was a passion of mine, and I started to dream a little bit my junior year, and I wanted to go on and, win at the state level and go on to college and wrestle. And well, at the end of high school, I just wasn't, the honest truth is I just wasn't good enough. And, so I became, in my mind, a failed athlete. And I didn't know what to do. I had no other plan. So I did what everybody else was doing, and I signed up for a community college. I went there for 2 semesters, and just, the whole time I was in that self-pity, poor me, life sucks. I have nowhere to go, no direction, just that empty feeling that we've all had before. And again, I just saw myself as that failure athlete. So I did 2 semesters, and then I dropped out. And I said, screw this. I need something different. I need some direction in my life. I need some purpose. I don't want to live like going to school, coming home, partying. And this is just not me. So enlisted into the military. And this is kind of probably one of the things I'm more proud of with my military career, is less about the accolades and accomplishments, but the path that I took to get there. I started off on the enlisted side of the Army, which is basically You're bottom of the barrel guy. Like, I'm going to be a laborer. And I came in and I was an engineer at first. And I started working my way through the military schools. I immediately deployed to Iraq. I was there for my 20th and 21st birthday. So I was there for 15 months. And during that period, we had a lieutenant in my unit that passed away. He got hit by a roadside bomb and he died. And so when he died, I was, 20 years old, and I'm still soul searching and trying to figure out what I want out of life. And I had the realization that, life is fragile, and I want to not be scared of pursuing my dreams and not be scared of the path less taken. Right. And so I decided to switch from enlisted engineer over to officer, which required me to go back to school. And then I pursued the infantry. So that transition for me was really hard because I saw myself as a college dropout, a failed athlete. And here I was going back to school to kind of confront that all and really handle unfinished business, right? Because my parents taught me as a kid, if you don't basically finish what you start, right? And so I wanted to go back to school and finish where I started. So after that deployment, I had some adjustment issues coming back from Iraq, getting back into the regular civilian world. School was pretty challenging for me, emotionally and just psychologically coming back from that. But I pushed through, failed some tests, failed some courses, kept grinding, kept pushing. And that's like the one thing that I have in me is this ability to not quit. And so through all that, I ended up going all in on the infantry, and I was approved through the Army to go on that path. And after you go through college, they take about the Army takes the top 10%. They did at this time, and they gave you the branch of your choice. So I ranked in the top 10% inside of the officers that were commissioning, joined the infantry, went on. I became a conventional platoon leader, which is a regular Army platoon leader. And then after that assignment, I dropped an application to become a platoon leader in the 75th Ranger Regiment, which is a special operations unit. It's a tier 2 special operations unit. So the path from basically Iraq to landing my dream job took me about 7 years. And at the time, there was nobody really guiding me. I had a couple of mentors that come in and kind of like nudged me and believed in me to get me to go the direction that I deep down wanted to. But there was no internet, no groups, no support system. So it was a really lonely and dark road where in order to get to that end result, I focused a lot on habits and rituals and routines to keep myself focused and present and consistent with the actions required to get there. So I landed that dream job, and what ended up taking place was, like you mentioned, Raul, is I earned the Strike Force 1 platoon leader job, which I was the platoon leader for the Bad Mothers platoon. That was the name of our platoon, 1 Alpha, really good guys. Did some really phenomenal work with those individuals. Those guys were some straight heroes. And then one day, all dreams end. And unfortunately, my last Ranger mission was not a pretty mission. It wasn't a sexy one that they would write a movie about. In fact, we went in one night, and here I was, the dream job that I had been waiting for. I infilled onto this objective with my team, my strike force. We were going after a very dangerous individual overseas. And at about midnight, we got into a large gunfight. And there's multiple barricaded shooters inside of a compound. And my leaders took shrapnel. One of them lost an eye. We had a partner force with us that got shot in the chest, and the enemy was throwing frag grenades on top of us from a 2-story building. And it was unfortunate because here we were. This is supposed to be the dream job, right? But everybody's getting really messed up in this gunfight. I'm the officer responsible for that ground force, and we end up staying in that fight for several hours. And at the end of it, like I said, multiple partner forces wounded, injured, multiple US injured. And we actually had to exfil off of that mission and go back to base because we had so many casualties. So that night was really difficult for me as one of the leaders on the ground, because the next day, I woke up and all of my junior leaders, the ones that were out there leading the fight, were in the hospital. They're getting Purple Hearts, they had shrapnel. And there's a lot of mixed emotions that night. It felt like a failure. It felt like, we got our butts handed to us. But nobody died. And so that was the silver lining. And then following our exfil, our task force was able to eliminate that target, plus destroy several other targets off of the intel that we collected that night. So it was a strategic success. Fast forward several months later, a lot of those leaders, they built families. One of my right-hand men in that gunfight, he ended up that night, he saved a partner force's life. And then 6 months later, 7 months later, he had a newborn. So he was still able to be a father. And what that night really taught me is that no matter how bad things got, that platoon that I was with, those guys didn't quit. You know, they through everything, barricaded shooter, grenades coming down on top of them. These guys moved to the sounds of the guns every single time. They were fearless, man. And it was one of the most amazing, precious gifts that I've ever witnessed, seeing that in action. And fortunately enough, nobody passed. And unfortunately, some people did get hurt, but everybody continued to go on and live lives afterwards, and good lives afterwards. So my dream started to end there. And while it was unfortunate, I was left with all the great memories that I had at the Ranger Regiment, and who I became was really phenomenal too. It was very transformative to go from a failure athlete to landing this really awesome position in the 75th. But after that mission, I went on to, throughout my military career, I had to go do some schools, and I was in another dark period. And after that, I basically had to live on a blow up mattress and a twin bed and away from my wife for about 2 years. Okay. So I was dealing with me and her had to separate because of the schools that I was going to. And then I went on to another deployment for the military. So I was away from her for about 2 years, dealing with that, trying to come to terms with that deployment, make sense out of it, deal with the guilt, the leader guilt, if you will, find the silver lining and find purpose out of it. So while I'm going through that process, and all I really wanted to do was crawl into a hole and hide, essentially, right? You know, dream job goes away, and then I'm living with the guilt of this last combat mission, right? And all I just want to do is just hide. And so what ends up getting me through that 2-year period was my routines, my rituals, my habits, and my mindset. You know, I realized that the Rangers that I served with, the bad mothers, these guys were tough, man. And they taught me to never quit just by watching them and witnessing them. And so if I would have shut down in that 2-year period, I felt like I would have been doing them all a dishonor. And so that really helped propel me and project me into the future and to finish out my military career. So I started embodying what they taught me, the bad mothers, and continued to perform at the best level that I could. I ended up getting top blocked, which is a top rating as a company commander thereafter, while I was dealing with all those ups and downs, if you will. Which was an accomplishment in itself for me personally, to be able to stay in the fight. And then along the way, I decided I got a little bit addicted to doing hard things, you know, and in a way it was really to stay connected with the Rangers that I had left, because they had always taught me to do hard stuff, you know, and then especially that night. So I started doing a lot of physical hard things. I did an Ironman, 140-mile Ironman. I trained up for I did like 12 bike rides total before this thing. Okay. I very inexperienced on a bike, and I went out and did one. Another thing I did along this period was the 100-mile race. Okay. I ran 103 miles at an average of 11,000 feet. And that's pretty difficult to breathe at 11,000 feet. But the cool part, the funny part, interesting, is that I signed up for it on a Sunday, and then I ran it 6 days later. So I basically was sitting on my couch flipping through Instagram, and I saw a guy doing ultras, and I was like, man, it'd be really cool to do that one day. And I was like, let me just see if there's one around here. And I swipe and I see one, and I'm like, shit, there's a 100-mile race next Saturday. So I click on it and I'm like, screw it, let's go. Bad mother mindset, right? Let's try this thing out. And I know really nothing about ultra running. I go out there and I end up completing the 103 miles. We go from about 9,000 feet up to 13,000 across a 36-hour period. I finish it. When I cross the finish line, a lot of the other people that are out there were like, holy shit, man, we didn't think you were going to make it. And I was
So
like,
you did this in 36 hours?
Yeah, I did in 36 hours at 11,000 average feet. Yeah.
Damn. That's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, it was intense, and I'll talk through a little bit of the strategies and tactics I use to get through that I think can help out somebody. There's we can get into it, but I'll talk about the pain cave, potential barrier. And so, anyways, during that race, those are very emotionally, like, your body's essentially going through trauma on 100-mile race, right? You're just constantly pounding it. You're at altitude too. I actually have a friend that has he's the only person in history that's ever done 100 consecutive 100-mile races. He's done 100 consecutive 100-mile races every weekend for 100 weeks. He did a 100-mile race. Only person in history has done that. Okay. One of them was in his apartment in New York City. Okay. In the living room. He did laps in his living room. Phenomenal. This guy tells me, he said, bro, you shouldn't have made that. You shouldn't have finished. This guy's telling me that. He's like, nobody signs up for this 103-mile race at 11,000 feet and finishes it the first time. He's like, that's damn near impossible, man. You should not have made it. So fortunately enough, I did. One foot in front of the other. I adopted the bad mother mindset from the Rangers, and I completed it. On that route, on that run, I had a wake up moment. And I was at this point in my career where I had to decide, do I stay in the military and continue course, or do I switch directions, build out my business, get into entrepreneurship? Well, I learned that I was chasing significance. That was what was important to me inside the military. And that's why climbing the ranks and doing those things was so impactful and meaningful to me. And I realized that the best way for me to become more significant was to make the biggest impact that I can. And while I love the military and it transformed me, I accomplished this great, amazing dream. I realized that the path to more significance was in entrepreneurship, where there's no ceiling on the number of people that I can impact before I die. So I asked myself some questions. I said, what's the hardest path in front of me right now in my career? What would my mentor or somebody I respect tell me to do at this point, this inflection point in my career? And so what is the hardest path in front of me? And what does my gut instinct tell me to do right now? Should I stay in the military or get out? And all three of those pointed to getting out of the military. Even though the military was very, very familiar to me, people were telling me, hey, man, just ride it out, get the benefits, all that story that they tell you to keep you kind of trapped in that game. And I said, no, man. I said, my decision matrix, those three rules, what's the hardest path? What's my gut say? What would my mentor tell me to do? All point this direction. So with my stomach turning, I decided to separate, leave the military. And in an instant, I was out building out my company, teaching other people leadership performance to help me get into the Rangers, into the 75th, and all the fitness related mental toughness stuff that I learned along the way. So that's really my journey to go. I went from small shy kid from a little town to Ranger, entrepreneur, and now leadership and performance coach with pretty unique background in fitness, I guess.
Yeah, no, I love that. Just there's no comparison to your story that I've heard. I mean, everything you've been through, the toughest times to be in a situation, and fortunately enough, you mentioned nobody passed. So that's a good thing,
Yeah.
that people got out of the mission. I want to pivot this into business, like, because there's a lot of people that are super talented. I think that everybody's born with equal opportunity. As I know it sounds cliche, but we can do what we want with our vision and our goals and our talent, even if circumstances are for us or against us. But then when we become adults, like you mentioned, you can stay in a comfort zone, get the benefits of the military, and do what's just normal, what comes natural, or what felt natural at that particular time. Because that's the story that you mentioned, is like, we tell ourselves these different paths, these different stories, and we negotiate with ourselves, and that allows us to not be that best person. It allows us to stay within, whether it's in a box, outside of the box. We don't know what this box contains all the time, but the reality is that uncomfort level, like you mentioned, your goal and focus was to serve more people, and the only way to do that is to leave what's comfortable, go into your own entrepreneurship in uncharted territory. We don't know what could happen. The
Yeah.
worst thing that could happen is it didn't work and you could always go back. What is it that stops people that are successful in their business, or they they're at a glass ceiling and they don't feel like there's a pathway out of it?
Yeah, man. We all get trapped in the prison cell of our mind, right? Like, we feed ourselves these stories And we build those stories off of assumptions and limiting beliefs. And, that compounds across time. When I was a kid, the story I told myself was that I was dumb. I was one of those kids. I didn't think I was intelligent. And so when I went back to school, I had to figure out, how am I going to go back to school, graduate, when I have this limiting belief that I'm not intelligent. And, really that was a lie. Okay. And so we're all guilty of lying to ourselves. And really to get through that, we have to realize that the life that we want is on the other side of the shit that we don't want to do. So regardless of how I feel, how I think about myself and what I think I'm capable of, if I make a habit out of constantly confronting the shit I don't want to do, I grow, I get better. And I literally destroy that story I'm telling myself. Like, oh, I don't want to go for a run today. You go out and you do it. Okay. Then you do that enough. The story goes from I'm not a runner to holy shit, I'm running every single day. Right. So the path through that barrier is action. And the thing that's in between it, between the result you want and where you're at, is the shit you don't want to do. So that's the main takeaway, is that we have to stop lying to ourselves. And the best way you can convince yourself that you're lying to yourself is to go out and do something a little bit extreme that pushes that limitation that you think you have. Make yourself uncomfortable. Everybody says they want to grow and be uncomfortable, but they only want to do it on their terms. Right? It's true. They're like, hey, hey, if somebody comes to me, they're like, hey man, I want you to make me a great runner. I want you to make me more mentally tough. And I'm like, all right, I want you to run a marathon tomorrow. They're going to say, whoa. Let me train up for it. Let me just go through this thing. Let me go through this path. Even if I tell them like 100% you'll be able to complete it, they're going to negotiate with me and try to make it on their terms. So we have to become somebody that's used to doing the things required, the uncomfortable things, not on our terms, because we know it gets us to the result. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you along that. Yeah, because I mean, otherwise you'll just be where you're at.
Right.
If you allow that becomes the habit, and once that habit becomes habitual, then you're fucked. Then it's always a negotiation.
Yeah, exactly. There's two sides to our brain, right? There's like what we know we should do, and then there's the voice that kind of talks us in. I call my voice, the negative voice on my shoulder, I call him Scar from Simba, or from Lion King. Sorry,
Yeah.
from Lion King, because Scar is like super manipulative, right? And he's kind of weak. He's manipulative. He's a punk, but he can be very, very convincing. And so I have a scar on my shoulder all the time. And my job is to get rid of that guy and be the Simba or be the Mufasa or whatever, and show up as that person every single day and make this guy shut up and go away. Like, we got to put him in the lion's den, get him away from us. Right.
Yeah, I had scar on my shoulder. I was telling you before we went live, on my shoulder. I'm like, I had to knock him off before so I can wake up at 5 in the morning and go do my thing.
Yeah. This is the separator. So in
Yeah.
business, and it doesn't matter if it's in your career, in business, entrepreneurship, whatever you're doing, everything that you want is, I'm telling you, and you know this, the gap is all the stuff that you don't want to do. So if you can learn to habitually confront the things you don't want to do, you get the result. Okay. The business grows. So I personally, there's some things that I can provide to the audience right now that'll help out. Okay. If you want to become somebody that confronts what you hate to do, two strategies, two tactics for you. One of them is an event, a battle rhythm, a routine event called Suffering Saturday. Okay. Suffering Saturday is something I created to keep myself growing and systemize my growth. And what that looks like is Saturday morning, you wake up, you say, hey man, what do I not want to do today? Some things that I'm behind on, that I don't want to knock out, that I've been putting off, or what's a hard fitness thing that I've been meaning to get around to and I haven't been doing that. So you kind of just brain dump the things that you've been avoiding, and then you confront them on Saturday. Okay. And so what that turned into for me was doing crazy stuff. Like, I ran from my house one day to the top of Pikes Peak and back down, which is 32 miles, 7,000, 8,000 feet of gain. And I did on very minimal food and water. And that shows growth. That was like statistically growth, right? So if we can, and you don't have to do something that extreme if that kind of like is too much for you to begin with, you can start stair stepping this process. In fact, one of my clients did this. Her name is Brittany, and she had a laundry room full of basically 3 weeks full of laundry. Okay. She was a busy mom, entrepreneur, and was saying, hey, I don't want to do this. And then all of a sudden she's doing that with everything in her life, ignoring her bank account, ignoring other problems. But her laundry room represented it all. And I said, hey, Brittany, I want you to start focusing on Suffering Saturday. So she got up and she said, hey, I'm going to go for a run. And she was doing like 1 mile walks around this time, maybe 2 mile walks. She started doing Suffering Saturday. Next thing you know, she wrote her laundry on there, her fitness. She had the whole laundry room clean. Okay. 3 weeks worth of laundry, immaculate. She wrote a blog on this whole thing. Then her whole house was immaculate. Her kids, I mean, the house just looked like excellence. The whole family and culture changed because she was confronting all those things that she didn't want to do. And the family basically drank the Kool-Aid. On top of that, she goes from running 1, maybe 2 miles a day to doing multiple 10-mile runs within a few months. She's running 10-milers regularly now. And what and by the way, her income has 10x'd because she's no longer feeding herself the bullshit story she was prior. And she's confronting all the things that she doesn't want to do. She's in the music industry. So, generating leads was something that she was uncomfortable doing on social media, but boom, now she's fearless. She's on social media, doing videos, reaching out, and all of a sudden that ceiling's gone and now the results come. So
That's
Suffering
amazing.
Saturday is a great one.
I like that. I like that name too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
apply.
I've been scrutinized for Saturday because, somebody messaged me a couple months ago. They're like, you're discriminating. There's a lot of people that work on Saturday, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, bro, you're missing the point. Pick a day of the week, just one day of the week, whatever that is for you. For me, it's Saturday. And most people, Saturday is a great day because they usually screw off that day. And it's like, be productive on that day a little bit, push yourself. Who cares if it's Saturday? Call it Suffering Monday if you want to, right?
Yeah, no, I like that concept because I mean it's bigger than just the Saturday or the name, like you mentioned. It's just as simple as laundry
Yeah.
because that's like a core root cause that can have a domino and a snowball effect, like it did for your client,
Yeah.
and it leads to because I mean once you take care of something like that, if your room looks like shit, your bed's not made. Chances are there's going to be other areas in your life. Chances are your car looks like shit too.
Yep.
Chances are your dishes are piled up in the sink too. And once you
Everybody has that thing, that one thing where their discipline starts to slip and you can see it.
Mhm.
It could be the laundry. For me, it's my office. If my office starts to get untidy, then I'm probably slipping up in some other areas. I'm probably not managing my finances like as tight as I should be. I'm not doing my outreach like I should be, or building my team. Like I'm slipping there. I'm cutting corners. And so it's an indicator. You start tightening up that one thing, everything else starts getting tightened up too. And then I promised 2 techniques or 2 tactics. So the first one is Suffering Saturday. The
Mhm.
second one is a daily action plan. Okay. And I'll keep it kind of simple here because I teach it in Conquer Academy and it's a little more complex, but the general concept is that every single day, okay, we should know what our big 4 goals are that we're working towards. Okay. Maybe it's your fitness, maybe it's your business, maybe it's your family, maybe it's your spirituality. Okay. And you have measurable outcomes that you're trying to produce from all 4 of them. You write those down. Okay. And then on the other side of the paper, so that's on the right. And then on the left side, you're writing down your effort-based actions that you're going to take to drive those results, right? So, hey, I want to get a deal today. That means I need to have 30 conversations. That's an effort-based task. But here's the trick on the action plan that I give everyone. Your 4 goals, a minimum, you should have 4 actions. Okay. And all 4 of them should be congruent with that goal. I want to get a deal. That's my business goal, 30 conversations. Now with the actions, they need to be things that you have some resistance to. So imagine every single day you hate talking to people, right? But
Mhm.
you're trying to grow your business. So you're like, man, I'm going to talk to 30 people. It makes your stomach turn. And it's like, oh man, I really don't want to do this. And then you get to your fitness goal and you're like, I'm trying to run a marathon. You know what I hate doing? I hate morning cardio. So let me write morning cardio down. So you list them all out. Imagine every single day you write down those 4 actions with those 4 goals. And you literally just pound that action plan every single day, striving to get all 4 of them done to get your victory. If you get all 4, you win it. If you don't, you miss one, you lose. So you start competing with yourself. That's a self accountability plan. You get to see your consistency grow across time. And then imagine doing that for 100 days straight and then 300 days. Okay. You'd be surprised. I mean, you know how many people stumble and get in their own way when they write out some really easy tasks, that should only take a couple of hours, and they end up not being able to get through those tasks in multiple days. It's challenging. So if you can fine tune that, what you end up with is a huge, your whole life transforms. 100 days of doing shit I don't want to do in 4 different areas of life, my life gets better.
100%. I think that a lot of people have resistance because it's that comfort zone. They're just used to the normal habit, or it could just be a new skill, and they may not realize that it could be easier if you just make that attempt first. Because like even like the running example you gave, I mean, it's much easier to just open your mind to just get up and run than it is to negotiate in your own brain, because it takes a lot of energy to do that. And then once you have that loss column, like where it's like your scar negotiated you out of something you should be doing, then that's probably going to be the tone of that day.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're highlighting is like the gray area, the negotiation area and everything. Decisions are easier to make when it's binary. Okay. When it's yes and no, black and white, right? Like the reason we obey the laws is because, well, most of the laws, right? Is because like there's certain laws out there where it's like, no, 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 man, that's a hard no. I will never do that. Well, what if all your daily disciplines in life were that crystal clear? Okay. We would be able to produce a much better result. So the problem is that we as human beings, we create too much gray area. And what we really need is just more mental toughness. Mental toughness works like a light switch. Okay. Everybody has it. If I put you in a horrible, horrible situation, like maybe overseas in combat, or a life death situation in where you live now, or your family's at stake, your mental toughness switch goes on. Okay. Everybody has it. A lot of people just aren't familiar with it. And so when it comes to doing like tasks that you're avoiding or business calls that you're avoiding, that's a form of mental toughness. Okay. And all you really got to do is turn the decision switch on. Okay. I'm going to do this thing. I'm not going to negotiate. And then I'm going to habitually do that over and over and over again across time. Right. To me, we leave, this maybe, we don't take quitting and the negotiation off the table. We just have to remove that.
Yeah, no, that's 100%. So, like, I see a bunch of you guys on here. There's a bunch, like, if you guys can make sure you can hear us, number one, but number two, like, what's something that you're not going to negotiate? Let's get a little interactive here.
Yeah.
With me, like, I wake up 5 o'clock in the morning, and I mean, that's when the alarm goes off. I hit snooze twice. So, my non negotiable is to hit that snooze button because I'm just making myself worse and tired, and I'm making that habit go throughout. So that'll be my commitment to this group right here live. I want to see big or small, like what is something that you want to do today that you can just get off the plate? Even the suffering, what is it, Wednesday, suffering Wednesday. You can do your laundry. You can go check your bank account. You can pay your bills on time. You can call those 10 leads back that you know are warm, that you're just for whatever reason saying, I'll just do it tomorrow, or I'll just call this afternoon. I'll just do it whenever. Like call those people. It impacts your life, your family, your growth.
Yeah, man. That's beautiful. I don't have the chat up here to see if somebody's dropping stuff down. So if they do, let me know.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
gonna try to
If there's
pull it. Oh,
any
I do
questions,
have it.
yeah, okay. I just tagged you in it too.
Cool, got
But
it.
yeah, if there's any questions in here, like go ahead and just drop those while we're live here if you do, because we're gonna have Jeremiah here for a little bit longer. And maybe you guys will see him more often and as a familiar face in this group. But what are some tricks or tips or anything that can give people more ideas for mental toughness? Because what I don't want to happen is like going like in an event, like when you go to a live event or a virtual event, you have that pow that like, oh man, I feel fucking amazing, but then it depletes thereafter.
Yeah, that's huge. It's basically like candy, right? Candy tastes good, but it's horrible for you. It gives you a little bit of a high, and then you stop eating it, and it goes away, and you feel like shit. We don't want that. We want consistent action. And I think that the thing that I can provide that'd be the most helpful is, I'll use my 103-mile race as an example. People need to know what they're getting into with this mental toughness growth. Okay. And if you understand conceptually what you're about to embark on, it's going to be easier to get through it across time consistently. You might get motivated one day to be like, hey, I'm gonna go out and climb a hard mountain, get super inspired, go do it. But then the next day be like, I'm not doing that ever again. Right. We don't want that. We want consistency. So no matter what you're doing, if it's fitness, your business, there's some phases in where mental toughness is built. Okay. The first zone when building it is an area called the comfort zone. Okay. And then the next zone is called the pain cave. And then the third zone is called what I call the potential barrier. All right. So when I wanted to go run 103 miles and I had 6 days to prepare, right? I had to get clear on why I was doing it and how the hell am I going to get through this thing, man? And so what I determined, I did a couple of things that I think can help everybody out get through these 3 phases. One is I called my power people. Okay. Everybody should have some power people in their life. And you probably have some already, where if you call them, no matter what you call them about, they're people that are going to talk good to you. Like typically there's a parent that you call them and it's just like, hi honey, how you doing? I love you so much. And they just warm your heart. Right. But you should have some mentors and people in your life where you call them no matter what you're doing, and they put positive comments and positive feedback into your head. That helps a ton for doing something hard, because it's really easy to create a negative mindset before you're about to do something really, really difficult, and where you're going to basically become your own worst enemy. So we want to hijack that, get some power people in our head. Hey, I have a 103-mile race coming up. I just want to call and say hi. Hey man, you're going to kill it, dude. You're going to crush this thing, right? That's positive stuff that's getting fed into my head. So you want to do that when you're in the comfort zone, okay, to keep yourself committed to going into the next stage, which is going to be the pain cave.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you want to contact your power people ahead of time. That'll help out, get the input to change. And then additionally, whatever you're about to embark on, just like my 103-mile race, we all hear this, get clear about your why. The thing that helped me out with this race was I connected my future success to that race. Okay. I said, if I want to succeed and create $100 million company, if I want to be X, Y, and Z, these type of things in my life, if I want this success, I need to prove it. I need to prove that I'm not going to back out. I need to prove that I'm going to be consistent to the plan. And this race is the closest physical thing that I can do right now to prove myself to myself, right? Makes sense? So visually, you want to cast that vision. What does success look like? Okay, now here's the event, and I'm going to connect the two. Going all out. I don't have to finish the race. I just need to give my 110%. That's what's important to me. Show that I will not fucking quit. And then race day happens. You go to the race, your stomach starts to turn. This is like anything you do in life, right? You go to do a 5-mile run, you get out the door, you're like, fuck man, stomach start. You go to pick up the phone to call your leads or whatever on business. And you're like, oh, I really don't want to do this. Right. So then you're going to start getting into the pain cave where things start to hurt. Okay. But if you've talked to your power people and you have a clear why, that can propel you and push you into the pain cave. You can start doing the hard thing. And the first 10 minutes of everything sucks. So you just got to get through that part, right? As you're going, I call it the pain cave because inside of there, that the way you feel in that moment is it's dark, it's lonely, it's painful, it hurts, you're a little bit nauseous, just like on that 103-mile race. And my first leg of the pain cave was between miles 10 and 20. Okay. I ended up getting what I realized was altitude sickness. Afterwards, I realized it at about mile 10. Okay. I was climbing so high. I ran pretty much straight uphill for 10 miles. My nasty headache. I'm delusional. I'm sick. And I'm like, holy shit, this is only 10 miles in. Why do I feel like this? Little did I forget I'm at, 10,000 feet. So I'm starting to, the negative voice is coming in my head. I can't complete this. You have 90 more miles to go. It hurts. It's painful, but it's still doable. So I keep pushing. I get to mile 20. Okay. And my whole world is upside down. The most pain I've ever been in my life. And I can't see straight. I think I'm dehydrated. So I'm trying to hydrate with this like electrolyte salt that I've never used before. And that is actually making me more sick. So I'm borderline throwing up at mile 20, and I'm embarrassed because there's people there at these stations. And I said, you know what, let me just get to the next checkpoint and then let me regroup and see if I can't push through this thing. Cause if not, they're going to have to pull me off this mountain and medically evacuate me. So I get up there and I kind of like a sick dog would do. I kind of like hide off into the woods, right? Find a shady area. I take off my shoes, completely embarrassed, kind of hiding from the failure is what it feels like. We've all been there before. And I said, let me just set my alarm for 20 minutes. Try it. This is my last ditch effort to get myself back on track. And mentally I'm thinking, dude, you're done. And so I lay down and shoes are off. And as I'm laying there, my thoughts are racing. And all the conversations that I had before the event started popping in from my power people. And then my why came popping in. And it was me realizing that this event meant that I was trying to prove that I'm consistent to success long term. So I'm in this thought process, scars on my shoulder again, right? And then all of a sudden, I'm laying there, and before my alarm goes off, you know, I have very few like spiritual moments in my life, but I tell you, if God ever touched me, this moment was it, because I got this wave of energy, and that voice, the powerful voice, the Simba came in, and he reaffirmed, he said, bro, you don't quit. We don't quit. And then the voices in my head were going back and forth, and it was Simba talking to Scar. And he was saying, you better get up or I'm dragging your corpse through the next 80 effing miles until we get there. And so I get struck with this anger, this aggression, this next level. And I got up and I started digging and digging and digging for the next 20 miles, man. It was head down. There's this cloud of smoke over my face. Like I was in this dark, dark area that I've never experienced before. And it was giving me power. And the last leg of this 20 miles, I'm going uphill, and it's literally like you could slap the mountain. It's so steep. 2 steps, hands on my knees, 2 steps, hands on my knees. I get to the top of this thing. And when I hit the top, all that smoke, the confusion, all that stuff lifts. And I started feeling energy again. And I was like, holy shit, I got through the potential barrier. So I call it the potential barrier because at the end of the pain cave is where you naturally want to stop. And then you have an opportunity. If you keep pushing forward, you get closer and closer and closer to your actual potential. And inside of that potential barrier, it's going to feel worse than the pain cave. It's going to feel like you're clawing your way through almost like jello. It feels like you're being suffocated, and it's even darker. We've all been there before, especially as entrepreneurs, where it feels like the whole world is collapsing on you. And you almost feel like childlike in that moment. Okay. Like emotional. And if you can just keep pressing forward in that space, eventually you're going to break through. You're not going to know when it ends. And when you do, you're going to feel invincible. And then I still had 60 miles to go, but I'll tell you what, man, I tapped into something I didn't know I had. And the next 60 miles was tough, but it was doable. So I got through the potential barrier, and I actually got closer to my actual potential. So comfort zone, pain cave, potential barrier. And you got to be prepared for that. And if you are, and you connect it to your why, you can pull yourself through all of it.
Dude, I love that. That's fucking amazing. And especially when you talk about that comfort zone, that's something I tell like our people and myself all the time is like when you don't want to make those sales calls or you feel burned out because your position is to bring revenue in, and that's every entrepreneur. Sales is the lifeblood of business, and a lot of us are in the smaller business zone, so you have to do a lot of these things, and that creates a lot of stress on you too in other areas. But I just pick up the phone and call the people on my favorites list. And I say, what up, man? How's your day? What are you doing this week? How's the fam? I just get my chops going, get the momentum. I get the good conversations out of the way, because once then I would try to translate those good conversations to a sales call, because all I'm doing is calling somebody that needs help, but then also it's just 2 friends chatting. I mean, I don't know if I can help them yet. So we're just trying to have a friendly conversation to see how we can support one another, just like you've done on this amazing Facebook Live here. So 1, comfort zone; 2, pain cave; 3, potential barrier. So what area are you guys in right now that you feel? Are you in your comfort zone, your pain cave, your potential barrier? Like, what are you guys going to do? I want to make sure that people have takeaways. Like, this isn't like I hate information unless there's execution behind it.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I'm big on is like, don't listen to shit if you're just gonna like not do anything about it. Yeah, if you don't know what the event is about, that's one thing to explore, but execution is really where we have that transitional moment where we can get out of our own ways.
Yeah. And I would reiterate that how to distinguish between pain cave and potential barrier. Cause if you've never been in the potential barrier space, it can be kind of confusing. Most people will turn a different direction before they get to that. It's just natural. It's the human tendency. So pain cave is I'm discouraged. Okay. Think about business or entrepreneurship. I'm disappointed. It's hard. Okay. Potential barrier is emotionally destroyed. Okay. It's where I feel like you probably felt like this in a relationship where you broke up with somebody. You felt crippling, like it felt crippling. The whole world felt like it was on you and you became almost childlike. So discouraged versus destroyed, essentially, inside of pain cave and potential barrier.
Cool. Awesome. Awesome, guys. So hopefully you guys like this. And I mean, if I asked you to come back, what do you say?
Yeah, I'll come back, of course.
I
If
had
as
to
long as
ask you
there's some
live.
good engagement down below, if you guys
Yeah.
comment and you tell me what you liked and what you want me to address more of, I'll come back for sure.
Yeah, drop your takeaways here, guys, because when you actually drop some hearts, some thumbs ups, whatever it is you like, whatever your favorite emoji is, because that will help this also not only reach more people inside of the group, but then it'll also inspire us to bring Jeremiah back too, and other guests that we have lined up for you guys. And if you have any takeaways that you want to share with other people, not just yourself, but other people, because when I'm on Facebook Lives, I'm kind of selfish, but I'm also kind of helpful. And the way I'm selfish is I like to type my notes in on other people's lives that I'm watching, just so I participate. That person gets to know me, whoever's hosting it. But then I also mentally remember my own notes. But then when other people read those notes, they're gonna be like, "Oh shit, this person is like got their shit together." So that's where I'm selfish and helpful at the exact same time. Because selfishly, I want to learn. B, I want the authority who's hosting it or the guest to know who I am, and then other people get to know who I am too inside that group too. So it's all
Yeah.
helpful to them.
It's a great technique right there. There's some of my best members in Conquer Academy do that thing, and I give them the most attention. Most of the members are gravitated towards them. It makes you stand out. It's an iron sharpens iron type of tactics. That's really good.
Dude, I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. Hope like if whatever your favorite takeaway is, like I mentioned, drop it below. Even if you're watching this on the replay or the live, we'd love to hear your comments, and we'll come back and scroll through these. So if there's questions after we end this, go ahead and ask them. Tag one of us, and we'll get back to you. Okay. All right. Well, Fit Pro fam, have an awesome day. Jeremiah, thank you so much for being here and taking out time out of your day too.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.